were just, the goal was always to make a software product, to make a SaaS product that we could support. But we wanted to get better at our craft. We wanted to learn how to build things for the web and design things that were good products. And so we were doing client work for several years. And by way of doing that, we also worked on a couple of side projects. And so the side projects were little dabbles in SaaS software. And we would have small ideas that we would just we would bring to life over the course of a weekend or something. And so through supporting those products, I adopted a number of different kind of help desk solutions or just shared email inboxes. And I was thinking about the customer support space for more than 2 years before we really acted on it and created Helpscout. It's not like we invented a new market. Customer service is always and will always be important to businesses. And so as a business, frankly, we just had a lot of the same challenges that our customers have. And so it was a really great opportunity for us to understand the challenges they were facing and kind of solve a problem for ourselves and see how it felt, and then try to solve it for a bunch of other people. So it was a very intentional choice to get involved in customer service. It's been something I've always been passionate about. I know I'm never going to run out of energy talking about solving that sort of problem. And again, it's not one that's trendy. It's not going to go away. So for all those reasons, we've decided to play the long game with Helpscout.
Hey, it's Alex again, and you were just listening to one of my heroes in business, Nick Francis, who is the CEO and one of the co-founders of Helpscout. You can check them out at helpscout.com. And by the way, we're not being sponsored by Helpscout at all. And I think I said in previous podcasts that all of this information that I'm putting together, all these episodes, are all really about me trying my best to really help you out in whatever way I can to show you some of the big names in business in the sphere of flexible work and remote work, so that you can then do your own research, do your own background reading, etc., and decide if this is an option, this is an avenue for you, because it's all about options. And I keep saying this, I've said this in a number of different episodes, and if you've watched any of my videos, I keep saying that it's all about having the choices there, so you can then make I suppose, an informed decision as to which direction you want to go. And the interview I did with Nick was for the Remote Work Life Summit. And if you want to hear the whole interview, then just go to remoteworklife.io. But I thought this particular segment of the interview was really poignant, a really poignant segment, because Nick, really in a nutshell, sums up his approach to starting Helpscout and what he went through. And I know a lot of you struggle when it comes to passion and purpose. And I think one of the reasons I love Helpscout and one of the reasons I love Nick is because he's really figured things out and he's brought people along with him. So his business is all about helping people. That's the core of his business. And he's doing it in two ways. He's doing it by helping out his clients, because obviously customer service is one of the core pillars of what they do, helping businesses to really build those relationships with their customers. And on the other side of things, he's helping people who want to work in a distributed team. And I mean, they set up, I believe Helpscout was set up to be a remote business deliberately, but it really, having that flexibility, having that option of working flexibly is something that really helps people. So as I said, apart from his passion and his purpose and the real mission that he has with the business, I love the fact that Nick is just helping people out. And as I said, if you listen back, I'd encourage you to listen back to that segment, because he breaks down a process. In some ways, it's quite a high level process, but he breaks down a process as to how he came about working and developing Helpscout. He talks about learning, so learning by working with clients and on side projects. That's something that's really important, because if you're setting up a business, or if you're looking to work for a particular company, you've got to understand the ins and outs of what that company is all about. And I had another interview, in fact, a few years ago with a really senior figure who said to me, apprenticing with a problem is one of the keys to understanding if you can really get your teeth into something. And that means essentially getting stuck in there, actually not just talking about it or doing the actual theory around it. It's actually getting your teeth into it and doing it on a day-to-day basis, so that you know, or so that you can begin to learn if it's something that you can take forward and be passionate about and really build something around, really build your career, really build your business around. So Nick did that. He went about learning by working with clients, and you can do that too. You can do, and if you're not somebody who wants to set up their own business, you can do that by learning and working with businesses that you potentially want to work with in the space that you want to work with. And that brings me on to the next point, because Nick identified a space, a niche, or niche, as they say in the USA, a niche to actually apply what he was learning and what he was developing. Because as I said, it's not just about the theory. You've got to understand if it's something that you can really really get your teeth into, and that you're going to enjoy. And it may be that you don't identify that space the first time around. So don't become impatient if things don't work out for you for the first time around. Just look at it as, you've identified one or two different areas. You've worked in a certain area, it hasn't quite worked out. You can eliminate that area and move on to the next area. It's not something that usually comes quickly. If it does come quickly for you, then that's great. But if it doesn't, then just be patient and keep working at it. So he identified a space to apply his particular way of working and his particular software. And I think the other thing about that is that he identified an area, a concern that he felt was going to be an ongoing concern, because there's no point identifying something just because you like it. It's good to really like something, but you also, for it to be a sustainable venture, whether it's a business or again it's your career path, your work, you want to identify a business that's onto something in terms of a problem that is either an existing problem or a problem that is a growing problem. Are there any sort of culture shifts that you can identify that are developing areas? Are there any particular areas that, as I said, are long-standing problems? Because if it's a long-standing problem, the chances are you'll be able to build your career around that particular problem. And that's what Nick at Helpscout has done. And he's obviously a lifelong learner, and he's also somebody who, as I said, is passionate about what he does. And once he'd identified the space he wanted to work in, once he'd actually gone about learning by working with clients and on his side projects, he was still developing ideas based on solving problems. And that's really the heart of, finding something that you're really passionate about. Is there a problem in the world? There are big problems. There are small, problems that are probably a bit smaller that you can perhaps look at. He's gone about and he's found a problem that he wants to solve, and he started out solving it for himself, for his own particular business. Again, he was not just doing the theory. He was creating projects, creating solutions to problems during weekends sometimes, and working on those solutions for himself and for his own business, and then rolling those solutions out to solve problems for other people. So in that way, he was collecting not only insight in terms of the problem itself, he was, I'm sure, along the way getting feedback from the people he was serving as clients. And then from there, he iterated things and went on to the next iteration of what he was doing in order to sort of build on what he'd learned. So it's a process of learning and listening as well, which was really important for him. But above all, he has that intent and he has that energy about solving the problems for his clients, and that is something that is going to put him in real good stead, put his business in real good stead, and has put his business in real good stead, because Helpscout's been around since 2011, and as you know, the web is one of those areas that's not going anywhere. There are more and more websites, there are more and more platforms that are developing online all the time. A lot of businesses have to deal with customers, have to serve customers, and he's identified something that, by his own admission, is not, he hasn't sort of invented something, but he's identified something that can take him and his business forward into the future. So I just urge you just to listen back to that interview and think about it in the context of your own career, in the context of your own development, whether it's you starting out in terms of a new business or you taking the next step in your career to work for somebody else. It's because it's applicable to, well, as far as I can see, it's applicable to both of those areas. And you can go a step further than that, because once you've actually identified that particular area that you want to go for, or you may identify more than one area, you can then begin to, as I said, work in there, apprentice with it, get stuck into it in many ways. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Get stuck into it. And then after you've had some experience in that particular area, you can then begin to decide, do I want to be the kind of person who works on the front line solving this particular problem? By that I mean, do you want to have that, I suppose, contact with your clients on a day-to-day basis, or your customers on a day-to-day basis? And by contact, I mean it could be face-to-face contact, it could be contact virtually on the phone, etc. Do you want to be that person who is on the front line solving that particular problem? Or do you want to be the person who's managing those people on the front line, solving those problems? And then the next step could be, do you want to be the person who is the more strategic person, who is thinking about the ideas and the solutions to help those people who are managing people who are on the front line, if you see what I mean? So there's 3 different things to think about there. Do you want to be on the front line? Do you want to be managing those people on the front line? Or do you want to be the person who's strategizing and creating the direction of that particular company, if you're setting one up, or if you're joining a company? So that's my way of thinking. It's just an idea I wanted to share with you, and just to see what you thought. I mean, if you've got any ideas yourself, I don't by any means have all the answers, and a lot of the answers that I've gathered over the years have been from listening to people like Nick, from understanding their thought processes, from understanding their ideas. And I think that's one of the key things within this whole podcast is, if you listen and learn from people like Nick, you can really take you really far. And I hope this has gone some way to helping you. And as I said, if you want to hear the full interview that Nick does with me during the Remote Work Life Summit, then please just go to remoteworklife.io and get your free ticket to the Remote Work Life Summit. But until next time, I hope that's helped, and I'll speak to you soon.